Microphone?
Yes, please.
Oh, you're gonna make me do this?
Yes.
So when I start doing this, you'll yell at me, right?
Yep.
We'll know how much you drank.
I'm gonna try to take it a little easy on that. Well, welcome everyone. Really great to have you here. We are doing something a little different today because there was a mix-up in the schedule for Sunday. Originally, Luisos and Mulanlave were going to have a tasting right now. We were going to do one tomorrow. Tomorrow was a conflict, so Luisos graciously said, well, John, we can combine one, and so we made it a little longer. And we're going first because we've got some sparkling wines that we're going to start you with. So thank you for that, being gracious. So, Luisos. Quick introduction, if I can. My wife, Maria Lisa, for those that don't know her. Of course, the real boss. My new boss, Kelly Knight, my daughter Kelly. As some of you know, but many of you might not, Kelly and her sister Teresa are starting to grab the reins and take them over in the business, and I am slowly moving towards the big R word. I'm sure that'll take years, but they've done a great job of stepping up and kind of taking over things. So I think what we'll do, for those of you that don't know Rappahannock or much about us, we're going to have another tasting of some of our still wines on Monday. So for sake of time today, we'll talk a little bit more about the winery on Monday, and we'll get right to the wines today, if that's all right with everybody. So what we did today, I thought it was pretty interesting, is we are doing a sparkling flight. We wanted to talk about the different methods of sparkling wine, what makes these different sparkling wines different. And so the one thing I will caution you on is I decided at the last minute to switch the order, so it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to be 1, 3, 2, 4. So we will start one at a time. We're going to talk a little bit about method, a little bit about style. We'll let you all determine what you think about taste. So our first wine is our Blanc de Blanc. It is made from Chardonnay and Céval Blanc grapes. It is done in the Charmat method. Charmat being a tank method. So maybe for those of you who don't know, the method of making sparkling wine is you pick grapes, you squeeze grapes, you take the juice, you ferment the juice into wine just like you would for any other wine. In this case, we start with Chardonnay and Céval. We pick it very young, so it has a lot of really nice acidity. We also pick it young so the sugar's not too high, because we're going to re-ferment this wine to create the bubbles in it later. That re-fermentation produces more alcohol than if we started at a 13 or 14% Chardonnay and ended up at 15 or 16% on a sparkling wine. It would be a little overpowering. So you have this base wine that you've made. You then, in the case of Charmat method, you would put all the wine into a tank. You would add sugar, add yeast, and re-ferment it in a specialized tank that holds the pressure in the tank. And all that carbonation gets bound up in the wine. The nice thing about that is that we can, you can produce a wine and get it to market much sooner. It's much more fruitful. It doesn't have a lot of those aged notes that a traditional Méthode Champenois wine would have. So it's really fruity, it's wonderful, it's got bright acidity, and we can literally pick these grapes in August, and the first chance we get to the bottle is December, and it's in the bottle, and it's really delightful. So before we go on, let's go ahead and just taste this wine. As I said, it's 80% Chardonnay, it's 20% Céval. The Chardonnay ends up rather acidic. The Céval, believe it or not, helps tone that down a little bit. Both of them have more or less citrus flavors picked at a young age like this. And we'll taste. I often refer to this as our everyday sparkling wine. So, just to kind of contrast those, to put this wine into more perspective, when you're making a traditional method, sparkling wine, méthode champenoise, traditional method, those terms are interchangeable. Instead of putting the wine into a tank, you put the wine into a bottle. You add a little yeast, a little sugar to each bottle, put a beer cap on the bottle, put that bottle in the back of the cellar. It takes a month, it takes 2 months, it takes 3 months for it to complete this secondary fermentation. Again, because it's capped solid, that effervescence is captured in the wine. But what you have is you have live yeast in the bottle. And those yeast take about a year before they will die. If they don't die, and you take the cap off that bottle and put a cork in it and serve it, you go put it in your cellar, you've got live yeast in the bottle, and quite possibly it would explode. So because it's in the bottle and in its final resting place, you can't filter it like we do when we put the Charmat method into tank. We can filter it as it comes out of tank and into bottle. And it's a whole specialized set of equipment that allows us to do that. But so now you have this traditional method wine that goes into the bottle, ferments, all that yeast is in the bottle, and it's going to sit there for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or 5 years in the case of our Prestige here, before that wine is then taken out of the cellar. It's kind of a fun process. We have specialized cages that we put all the bottles in, and the bottles start in an upright position. And over a week, that cage turns a little bit every hour or so. By the end of the week, it's neck down. And all the yeast and yeast byproducts are now down in the neck of that bottle. You take those cages over, you take the bottles out, you put them neck down into what we call a neck freezer. It's a glycol mixture, holes in the top, put the neck down, it freezes it. So you freeze that top of the bottle, that yeast plug is frozen, you pop the beer cap off, yeast plug blows out, and you top that bottle back off with a little bit of wine because you lost a little bit in the process. Put the cork, put the cage, put the foil, put the label, and you're done. So it's a pretty fascinating process. My wife's been after me for, well, we started sparkling wine in 2016, and she's for 15 years been, honey, we gotta have sparkling wine, And so this process for us, we started in 2016, so we're about 9 years into it at this point. And we made a lot of different styles, kind of working our way through different wines, trying to figure out, what it is that matches our fruit sourcing, what it is that matches our flavor profiles, what we would like to get out of the wines. So, as I said, the Blanc de Blanc, the first one you had, Charmat method, bright, fruity, and not in a bad way, but not a complex way. So we're going to move to wine number 3. This was our first experiment, which we were pretty excited about. This is 100% Chenin Blanc. It's from the 2018 vintage. Let me back up a half a second. Talked about those bottles being in what we call tirage, or in storage, for anywhere up to 5 or 6 years before they're disgorged. Pop that yeast plug out and cork it and sell it. This wine was 2018, it went into the bottle in 2019. It was disgorged in late 2020, mid 2024, right, Kelly?
Sorry.
Caught you, didn't I? Kathy?
I know, sorry.
This Chenin Blanc we disgorged middle of last year, correct?
Early last year.
Early last year, okay, so it was 5 years in tierage. Just to give you a little perspective, Champagne region of France, I think it's mandatory that it stay at least 2 years in tierage. Quite often their standard wines are 3, 4, 5. So this is 5 years. It's also, this wine is in a Magnum bottle, a 1.5 liter double bottle, which has really nice aging characteristics in it. We like the big bottle format. So 2018, we leased a local vineyard, had Chenin Blanc in it, and made the Chenin Blanc, so this is going to make us great sparkling wine, and it kicked off this program. But it wasn't until this past year we actually disgorged it and got to taste it and say, oh yeah, this is something we'd like to continue. We did plant Chenin Blanc in 2020, I think. maybe 2019. And so we didn't make this wine again until 2022. I'm having my dates off for a year. But so 100% Chenin Blanc, sat in tierage for a long time, lots of yeast contact. You get this yeast contact, you start to develop a lot of brioche, yeasty, bready kinds of characters, which many people associate with really fine tasting champagnes. The longer it's in the bottle, the more attachment sites you have for the bubbles. So you get these smaller and smaller and smaller bubbles in the wine. You get this wonderful sort of what you might call a mousse character in your mouth with the fine bubbles. So let's jump to that glass number 3, again 100% Chenin Blanc, and have a little try. I have to say, I was a little afraid to have these wines sitting out here, and they do start to lose a little of their bubbles over time. But hopefully you get that nice little bubble, moussey character in your palate.
Kelly's very distracting. Do you have any pictures inside the tasting?
So I thought we'd, kind of run through these, and then you can play with these glasses as time goes on here. We're going to go back to number 2. Number 2 is our, what I might call our flagship product that we've been making now since 2016. It's what we call our Prestige. It is a 100% Chardonnay. Our commitment is to put this in tierage for at least 2 years. This particular wine had 5 years, 5.5 years in tierage. It was just disgorged a few months ago. Again, it just gets this nice aged, brioche, yeasty kind of character that develops on it. The one thing I didn't mention is that in the world of sparkling wine, we are making a lot of very dry wines here. So on the scale, if you think of grams per liter of sugar, 1 gram per liter equals 0.1% sugar. So 0 to 3 is considered natural. You can ferment your wine dry, but you might most likely will always have a little sugar left in it that didn't fully ferment out. That's what they call natural, or I forget the French term for it. That's 0 to 3. 4 to 7 is extra brut. And our first 2 wines here, our first wine was a brut, which is up to 12 grams per liter. The number 3 and 4 wines are extra bruts. They're in the 7 to 9 range. And when we get to the last one, it's a little higher. We'll talk about that then. Any questions or comments as we go along the way? Don't be afraid to raise hands.
Everyone's scared to talk.
Scared to talk? Anybody want the microphone?
I didn't expect to have that much of a difference between them. That's pretty interesting.
That big a difference. So where did you perceive the biggest, from which, the Charmat to the traditional method, or between the 2 traditional methods?
Does one take longer than the other?
Traditional methods.
Yes. So the Chenin Blanc to Chardonnay. Chardonnay is Chenin Blanc has pretty delicate flavors and nice acidity. Chardonnay is a little rounder. Yes, Kathy?
Does the Charmat method take longer than the traditional method?
No, just the opposite. Charmat's fast, and that's why it's young, it's fruity. This is a 2023
Kelly told me.
Charmat wine that was bottled, when you think we are in, I guess this was bottled a year ago. But we've already got the 24s in bottle, and those will be out very soon. So those 3 wines represent the bulk of our, I shouldn't use the word traditional production, but our
They're staples of our wine production.
Staples of our wine production. But the last wine, number 4, this is what people at the winery know as fizzy or fizzy Lizzy or fizzy rosé. It's the only wine that we have kind of, although it's not on the label, it got named after my daughter Elizabeth, which really ticks off the rest of her sisters. She has a wine named after her. This is a rosé product we started years ago. It was actually the first, quote, foray into sparkling wine. We didn't have all the specialized equipment, so we were after that kind of frizzante, low-end sparkling, low-end from a pressure sparkling wine that you might find in Italy. And the original versions of this we made low enough in fizz, so to speak, that we could actually put it in a regular cork bottle. And we did that for a couple of years, and then we transitioned to one of those flip-top bottles. And then we finally got full into sparkling wine and had all the equipment to actually kind of do it right. But we actually put this wine under a beer cap, so we don't cork it. But it is, in the world of sparkling wine, again, your traditional method wines are about 5 bar of pressure, which is about up to 70 psi, somewhere in probably the 55 to 70 range. Charmat wines are about 3.5 to 4 bar, and this wine is 2.5 to 3, so much lower fizz level. This is a forced carbonated wine. So the difference here is we put this wine in a tank just like we might for the Charmat version, but instead of adding yeast and sugar, we get it really cold and we blanket it with carbon dioxide, and it absorbs the carbon dioxide. We actually put the carbon dioxide in the tank through a stone, almost like an aquarium stone kind of thing that breaks the bubbles down. And when it's just really cold, it absorbs it. And the tank can stay under pressure, so we can put a little pressure on it if we have to. But this is a pretty common way of making a lot of sparkling wines, especially in, well, Italy does a lot of it, US does a lot of it, the French maybe not so much. So this is 100% Chambourcin. This is what you would call sec in terms of sweetness. It's right around 20 grams per liter, about 2% residual sugar, which is still, you know, considered pretty dry, but by our standards, a little sweetness on it.
This is nice.
So,
I like this one.
so it did.
We have a separate refrigerator. Like Here's my phone. I can't keep my one.
Chambourcin makes a relatively dark rosé. It's almost impossible not to make it a little dark. Very fruity, a little bit of sweetness, and there's your wine you should have on the top deck up here at 90-degree temperatures outside.
What is the residual on number 2?
Number 2 is right around 7 or 8 grams per liter. And every vintage is a little bit different, depending on acidity. But it wouldn't, I can't imagine a day it would be over 9 or 10.
Did you guys get a card?
And sometimes it's 3 or 4. So that's a little fizzy, sparkling, carbonated start to the tasting today. Happy to take any questions. Yeah? No? All right. Yes.
That was really expensive. I think it was a long time ago.
Lisa likes champagne. Are you thinking more traditional?
Great question. So the question is, for those who couldn't hear it, are we thinking of a traditional rosé sparkling wine? The answer is yes, we make one. We just didn't have room to bring everything. Over the last few years, we have made a Charmat version of that. We made a lot of that in the early days, and then we just found out that between the Blanc de Blanc and the Fizzy, those were all kind of filling a similar palate need, and so something had to get kicked out. The traditional method rosé is really wonderful, and we've learned, that's been the biggest learning curve for us. Making a traditional method rosé, we have found that you just don't leave it in tierage very long. Color becomes very unstable, and that's a wine that within about a year of being in tierage, when it's the yeast is dead, you can disgorge it. You want to get it out. So we do have some at the winery. We're working through some older vintages that are good, but we like it when they're a little fresher and younger. So we finally, again, it's a lot of trial and error. We've only been at this 25 years. So, you know, that's, our vineyard is now, we've probably replanted half of our vineyard, and most of that is just trial and error. We're starting to learn the things that work and don't work in each individual site, which actually we're really excited to talk to you about with our 2023 wines that we'll be showcasing on the tasting on Monday. And those have made, stylistically, we've done some things very different there, recognizing the different fruit coming from our different vineyard sites. So we'll talk about that then, but it is a, you know, Europe has had centuries to work it out. Virginia, we've had a couple of 3 decades, and our experience in California before was, some of it was transferable to Virginia, but not when it really comes to the grapes and what's growing in the vineyard, not much of that was transferable. So we're, you know, 26, 27 years into it now and still feel like babies. So, okay, well if there's, oh, Dale?
How long can you keep fizzy wines on your shelf at home?
Well, a good question. How long can you keep these wines in your cellar? They are very stable because they have good acidity. Acid is a preservative for wine. Carbon dioxide in the wine, whether natural or forced carbonated, is a preservative. And so these wines tend to hold up very well. Something, except with the exception of something like fizzy, that color will start to go, and it's not going to look great. So that's a wine. That one in the Blanc de Blanc, the younger and fresher they are, the more you just want to drink them now. The traditional method wines, they can lay down. But these, you know, if you put it down there for 2 or 3 years or 4 years, they're going to be fine. Would they get better? Probably not. Would they get worse? Not, no. But we kind of consider them as drink them now. It's not something you're going to invest in your cellar that's going to have great rewards to it. Any other questions?
All designed to be consumed.
Happy to take a bunch, but happy to turn over the microphone too. So, all good? Okay, so what we're going to do, oh, only half an hour. You guys are too easy. It's probably going to take them 5 minutes or so to reset with a new set of glasses for Moulin Lave's tasting. So if anybody needs a bathroom break, go ahead and take one. Might even be 10 minutes by the time they clear glasses and get the next one set. But we'll kind of turn the show over to Luisos and Alex and the great folks of Moulin Lave. Alex has a question?
I have not.
Good question. So the question for those who couldn't hear it is, when you're filtering during the Charmat process, how do you keep the carbonation, the bubbles in it? It is a completely, it's a pressurized system from start to finish. So when you have the same pressure on either side of the filter pad, it passes, the bubbles pass right through. If you allow the pressure to drop on the bottling side, then you'll get foaming and all kinds of problems. And,
We don't do that, no.
it's a lot of reasonably complicated equipment that's not cheap, and that's why there's just not a lot of people to do it. It's a big investment, and it's an investment in expertise. It takes a while for people to learn it. It's not easy. It's not considered easy winemaking to make sparkling wines.
I do on vacation.
Yes.
Do you have the bottles here? People like me that like to take a picture of the bottle, just taste it.
I'm sorry. Say that again. I missed that.
So the wines we've tasted, do you
Uh-huh.
have one of each bottle we could set somewhere so people can take pictures?
Oh,
of
sure.
the bottle?
Sure. Set the bottles up for anybody who wants to take photographs. I'm sure we've got some left. Some of these wines will make their way into our winemaker dinner on Monday night, I think. Does that sound right, Luisos? And then Tuesday or Wednesday night, I'm sorry, I get the schedule mixed up, but Luisos and Moulin Lave and Rappahannock will do a joint dinner. So 2 of the wines for the dinner will be ours, 2 will be theirs. But we'll do one more tasting, and some of these wines will repeat in the dinner. So we won't need to talk to you in the dinner about them again. You will have the whole rundown. Product.
Obviously, the traditional method seems like that's the most expensive way to make
It is. Most labor intensive is right.
Do you find, and then the Charmat would be number 2, and the easiest one would be the most cost effective one?
Absolutely.
Does the sales leader follow that, or how does that work out? More people prefer the traditional method in terms of purchasing, or is it the Lizzie that's,
Yeah, good question. So the question for those who didn't hear it is, from a cost standpoint, do these wines, the traditional method is the most labor intensive, therefore the most expensive to produce. Charmat method is kind of the next one down, and then our Fizzy Lizzie product being the easiest and the most economical to produce. And then the question was, does that kind of match up with sales? I would say that we sell about 400 cases a year of Prestige and 800 cases a year of the
Her
Fizzy.
graduation party
Now, Fizzy sells for less money as a result of being an easier product to make. The Charmat falls right in the middle. And the Chenin Blanc is a new product. We only made, the initial vintage of this Chenin Blanc was 145 bottles, as opposed to hundreds of cases. So, yeah, we're still trying to figure out how that one's going to sell. Okay, well, we'll let the staff here get to resetting. If you'd like a bathroom break or stretch your legs, go for that. Like I said, we'll probably take at least 5 to 10 minutes to kind of reset for the next tasting.
25% return.
Thanks all. Look forward to the rest of the trip.